on, be the builder, not the employee, not the order taker.
Build with
Once you
AI.
become the
Yep.
builder, then you basically start saying, okay, now what do I do with like all the excess time and energy that I'm getting in this fiat? You don't have to
Put
learn to
into Bitcoin.
invest.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
store in Bitcoin,
Store it in Bitcoin.
stay focused. Stay
Yeah.
focused.
Welcome back to Satoshi Sundays. This is Satoshi Sundays number 5, I think, which is pretty crazy because it feels like I started this segment like yesterday. But we are back. Today's topic is going to be all about AI. Now, if you guys have been active on X, you would know that there is a article on X by Matt Schumer that is going, totally viral. My dad and I were speaking before this, and he said viral is an understatement for how many like impressions that article is making. So we're going to be diving into that, offering our own thoughts, going to be talking a lot about how this build with AI thing that we've been saying on Orange Peel actually can be applicable in the real world, respectively, what my dad is doing and what I am doing with AI and the skills that we are working towards building. So, without further ado, Dad, welcome back to Orange Peel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's just get right into it. You have read the article. I've read the article. What were your initial thoughts kind of going into the whole discourse of it all?
Um, I think
And
this
maybe like
article
we
kind
can
of
do a summary of the article as well if anyone like hasn't read it.
I wouldn't want to do the summary because then that basically says that I am fully agreeing with it. What we can do is we can link the article at the in
Okay.
the description.
Okay, yeah.
But what I would say is when I read this article by Matt Schumer, this kind of validated my thought how divided all of us are on what AI can and cannot do and what AI will and will not do.
Okay, interesting.
So where the way I'm seeing it, this article and after this I'm seeing a bunch of other articles that popped up which are basically taking a completely contrarian approach and saying this article is an AI slop written by AI, doom and gloom, fear mongering, nothing more. On the other hand, some people are saying, wake up, this is it. If you're not going to wake up now, you are doomed. So the way I see it is the world is kind of divided into two camps right now, right? One camp is, oh, I tried AI some month, few months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, maybe 12 months ago, on a free version where, we are still stuck on a year-old model. It just still cannot do basic math. And the other camp is AI is changing so fast, everybody's job will be gone. In like everybody has thrown different numbers. Anthropic CEO said 2 to 3 years. Today I read something about Microsoft AI CEO came out and said 12 to 18 months. What does that even mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So I think the way I'm thinking about this is the reality probably lies somewhere in between. Right? So I personally believe, like any other innovation of past, industrial revolution, when electricity came out, and anything before that, digitization, when internet came around,
Mhm.
it created disruption to begin with.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe AI will create disruption. No doubts about that.
As does any new technology, right? It would be stupid to say the internet didn't create any disruption or cars didn't come and just create disruption. What makes the disruption created by AI so special? People are so incredibly afraid of it.
So I think the people who are complaining right now were the beneficiaries of previous disruption. Right? People like me
Okay. Yeah.
who
Yeah.
built their entire career in internet economy. We like when internet was disrupting stuff. I was in school,
Yeah.
right?
True.
So when I was a young child, I did not imagine that I would have a career where I'd be sitting in a laptop in an air conditioning conditioned office every day and I'll be making handsome money. I never thought that, because my dad didn't do that. Right? My dad was an engineer, but he was not a computer science graduate. He was not sitting behind a computer all day. Right? So, but when this disruption was happening, I was in school, and most of the people who are crying right now or dismissing it, they were probably in schools or right around that age. And we were the primary beneficiaries of the previous, disruption. So we
Yeah,
don't know what it is like to be disrupted. And as we all know, as humans age, our tendency to, accept change goes down,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Change, humans don't like change. As simple as that. Humans like predictability. Humans like, sort of deterministic outcomes. They do not like change. This is a change. On one end, people who are, like, I believe a lot of this doom and gloom and this is an AI slop. Both of this is just clickbait. People trying to get engagement on social media. Don't fall for that,
Hmm.
right? In our there's a saying that one of my mentors told me very early on that basically said, listen to everybody, but do what you think is right. So
Right.
absorb
Yeah.
all possible opinions, but don't blindly follow anything. Use your own head.
Hmm.
And we've been building this theme over last several episodes. Don't blindly trust anything,
Correct. Yeah. Think of the
right?
incentives. Think of what somebody
Think
is
of like
getting out of
what
doing
was the
something.
person thinking about, what was their incentive. And maybe I'm not saying Matt's point of view is right or wrong on his motivation was just to get clicks. I don't know, but I would not take this article at its face value.
Interesting. Okay. Um, let's get deeper into that. So,
Yes.
just quickly before we kind of continue, to point out some of the big things that were said in this article, right? Matt linked the current AI progress to like February 2020s, like pre-COVID calm, and he was talking about how the new GPT 5.3 model can now autonomously handle complex tasks, and basically how this is going to disrupt white collar jobs faster than like any human could ever comprehend or imagine. Right now, what's interesting about Matt Schumer is that he is an AI CEO. So obviously he's going to be someone who is very bullish on AI, and he's claimed that it already replaced his technical role, if I'm remembering correctly. And he predicted something like 50% of entry level cognitive jobs were going to vanish in the next 1 to 5 years. So seeing this metric is obviously, terrifying. And it has completely, as we said, it's pushed people further into their respective school of thought. So, what I want to get at here is, do you think that we are underestimating how fast these AI capabilities are evolving or compounding? Essentially, he says like something big is happening. So what exactly like is that thing, and are we actually going to see an insane amount of growth in AI in the coming months? Yeah, that's that's what I want to know.
I think it ultimately boils down to the same thing we've talked multiple times, that human minds cannot comprehend exponential functions,
Point.
right? And growth of AI is exponential. It is very hard to remember that ChatGPT actually became a thing for common person about 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
And that point in time, ChatGPT or any other LLM for that matter could not even do basic math.
correct. Yeah, it was hallucinating all sorts of things. It was in what, senior year, right, when it first came out, and I wasn't able to use it for anything, and I compare that to now, I'm using it to help me study for my stats exam, and it's bang on with everything. It has a math mode, right?
Yep,
That's crazy progress.
exactly. And that's what exponential functions means. Like in 3 years, it has gone from a kindergarten kid to a multi PhD holder,
Mhm.
right? So now you can basically talk about anything to AI, and AI has a lot of information. Sure, a lot of it boils down to how good your question is, right? So let's pinpoint on what are the parts that I agree with
Mhm.
in this article, and then certain places where I have slightly different opinions. I agree with the fact that AI is changing very, very fast. And I would not be surprised if in next 18 to 24 months, we will start seeing the rise of humanoids. Now,
Like the Tesla Optimus.
this Tesla
Yeah,
Optimus. Now,
okay,
there is a
yeah.
challenge there. There's a physical challenge in terms of hardware manufacturing,
Mhm.
right? The power issues and everything else, and all the, rare earths and, silver issues and whatnot.
Yeah.
But assuming all those get figured out, I can see that happening.
Okay, interesting.
I What I don't see happening very in the very near future, and I might be wrong, right? I'm fully cognizant of the fact that I might be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think what will most likely happen is we will get AI much better at doing one or two things versus one AI doing everything. What do I mean by that? And I'm kind of building onto this idea of humanoid, right? So
Mhm.
we might get a humanoid. Let's say 2 years down the road, Optimus becomes a thing and everybody can buy it. Let's say it's reasonably priced, $5,000, $3,000. Sure, the current price is probably higher, much higher than that. But let's say that hypothetically. What I don't see Optimus or any humanoid be able to do right now is it can drive your car as well as it can, do the laundry. It can pick and drop, drive your kids around, drop them to the soccer class, do the cooking for you, maybe do your grocery shopping, right? Do your, entire cleaning in the house and maybe in the garden and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what I can see that happening is there is one for each of these. Like Tesla's full self-driving might become that off version of Optimus that does just driving for you. Nothing
Mhm.
else. Just driving. Right? You can safely put your kids in the back of the car and Tesla drives them away, takes them to the soccer, ground. The kids hop off, go play, come back in the car. Tesla drives them back home.
Mhm.
Right? I can see that happening. Now, people might say, "Oh, I'm not going to send my kids alone in the car." Like all those issues we have to still work out with, but I can see machines being capable. Right? Similarly, I can see on the software side of things, or the LLM kind of side of things, I can see these AIs becoming good at one specific thing, but I still don't see AIs doing very good when it comes to the real decision making,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I
So,
think what's interesting here about this is if we look at what these AI companies, OpenAI, Claude, not Claude, the company is what, Anthropic, what they've optimized for first is AI being able to write code, right? Look at how incredible the development between AI writing code back in 2023 versus now is. Because obviously, getting AI good at coding is better for itself. Now you've got this whole thing of these models being able to self-optimize and improve
yes,
themselves because they can write their own code. And that in itself, I think is so incredible to see. But it is also it goes to show you where I think the minds of the people heading these AI companies, where they're really at, right? They're not looking for AI to take over everything. To your point, they're looking for AI to take over one thing. And right now that thing has been writing code.
But so think about this, right? Again, follow the incentives. If they were trying to optimize AI to do something else first,
Yeah,
they have to put a ton of human capital
that's
behind
true.
it.
Exactly. Yep. It saves them so much money.
If they make it if they train it to write better code,
Mhm.
then it can do the self improvement,
Yep.
right? And I think the most recent GPT 5.3, as well as Anthropic's Claude 4.6, there were news reports around this where majority of the code was written by the respective AIs themselves,
Mhm.
right? Now, so this becomes the self improvement feedback loop, which is very important, very useful when you're building a business,
Mhm.
right? So I think from that standpoint, it's great. So and see, software engineering, lot of what happened in the software engineering in the last 20 years is bunch of softwares were built in isolation, and then lot of companies stood up on the fact, let me build integrations and workflows around these standalone softwares.
Okay, yeah.
That's all it was, right? Practically, if you think about this, that's exactly what it is. So either you end up buying everything from one company, so they'll have their own integration layers or workflows. Like, for example, if you are completely in Microsoft's ecosystem, you can buy everything from them. They all work very well together, right? But if you want to use Microsoft's Outlook and Microsoft Office, but you want to use database from Oracle, but you want to use your CRM from Salesforce and your HR software from Workday, somebody has to connect all of them,
Yeah.
right? That is going to go away,
Mhm.
right? Guaranteed. There is no
Interesting.
stopping it, right? That doesn't mean those companies will go bankrupt, because that's where, what we were saying earlier, humans don't like to change. The companies are
Mhm.
already stuck into that ecosystem. They're not going to overnight rotate out of
Yeah,
it.
disappear, yeah.
But anybody who, like, if you were starting a new company today, why would you go to SAP?
Correct.
Right? You could basically say, okay, I'm going to spin off an AI agent. I need a
Mhm.
CRM. I will tell it to build a CRM, and I want the CRM. And CRM here, for people who don't know, is a customer relationship management software. And you can basically tell it, I want this feature, and it will build just for you. Right? And then you spin off the second one and say, integrate, I want this data to be transformed here so I can
Mhm.
look at this way. It's a great use case for AI. So if you're starting a business today, any business, especially around, as if you're trying to do any white collar business, think of AI first. Be AI native, right? For an example, let's say, like, I'll give you certain examples, and people can think about, use them as food for thought about how can they think about these things. Insurance claims. There are a bunch of businesses right now available that actually send out somebody when, like, let's say you have a car and car runs and ends up in an accident. You file a claim, somebody will come, click pictures, and then they'll determine based on that what is the claim that
Mhm.
you are allowed to have, or they'll ask you to upload pictures and whatnot. There's a lot of human involvement there. If you want to disrupt that, make it AI native, right? AI can do a better job looking at damage and telling, okay, and using all data and kind of projecting what the repair cost would be, applying your deductibles on top, and then you can pay out the claims. if you end up doing that, you end up not only reducing the processing time, but you'll also be able to cut your cost as an insurance company,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Because you don't need all those middlemen who were bouncing
Yeah.
these images and papers around,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You can extend that to anything. You can extend it to health insurance, right? Travel insurance, right?
This is sounding a lot like, if you want to, I guess, start a company that is AI native, think about what it is that you can disrupt with AI.
Yes. So, as I was reading somewhere, somebody had a great idea where what they said was, if you go to, I think it was Department of Labor Statistics or some one of those
Mhm.
organization where they basically
Yeah.
say each occupation, how many people are employed, and then you basically pick up one occupation from there and work back from there. Okay, let's say accountant for that matter, right? I'm just hypothetical example. You say, okay, what do accountants do? Accountants do primarily two things. One, they manage your accounts, make sure your debits and credits are all lining up well, and making sure you have enough money to pay your liabilities and whatnot, in partnership with FP&A and others.
Mhm.
On the other hand, they also have to take care of filing your tax returns, and I'm talking in a business context, right? Um, Now think about it. Probably any a decent sized business will have one, maybe more accountants, right? And not every accountant. Now you want to expand your business to, okay, I was doing the business in the United States. I want to go to start serving Canada or Mexico, or want to go to Europe. Or the accountant I have doesn't understand how the taxes work in Canada, how the taxes work in Europe or Mexico and whatnot. What sort of treaties do we have between United States and them, and whatnot, like so all this stuff. So they have to hire others.
Mhm.
Now what you can do is you can have one person who's the decision maker, but they can have AI take care of everything else. You still have one person who finally signs off, primarily for the reason because I don't think governments will ever allow AI to file everything on your behalf. Somebody, a human, will have to put their name or a signature to that. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, I believe humans have to be the decision maker seat in this case, right? But if you can start thinking of this kind of profession and say, what do they do? What parts of their workflow I can, automate with AI, and then you build a product around that, and then you can go and start selling to all the customers of this occupation and say, hey, I can help you save cost, and I'll only charge you 1/20th, like 5% of what you're saying, or 10% of what you were paying earlier. And over time, I'll bring the cost down because the cost of usage of LLMs would keep going down over time.
Yeah.
Like that's one dimension, like, and again, this is just a food for thought. You can slice it any which way.
Mhm.
If you want to apply AI to any type of business, any type of build with AI thing, you basically try to see where are the inefficiencies in a workflow that I am passionate about. Don't get into any business that you are
That
not
you're not
passionate about.
passionate about. Yeah.
You'll do a terrible job,
100%.
right? Find a thing that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Find
And find a
inefficiencies in.
thing, I think. Find
Yes, exactly.
one thing. One
One thing,
thing.
not
Yep.
five things, one thing. Right? Build one thing, master one thing before you step into the second thing.
Mhm.
Right? So find that one thing, find the biggest inefficiency in that, solve that. If you can solve that problem for yourself, you can solve the problem for others.
Mhm.
Now you can say, okay, this is okay. What do I build business in? Now the other sides of this is when you're building a business, you require different skills,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? You're studying computer science. I don't think you probably say, I don't know what marketing is. I haven't done
Yeah.
any marketing.
Even
I don't
leave
understand it.
alone the whole computer science thing, right? Running this podcast, running this YouTube channel, I haven't got a clue how to market things, right? I don't have a clue how to speak with, brands and stuff when we're talking affiliate link sponsorships, I have to learn that somewhere. Where am I going? I'm going to AI.
Yeah.
So it's
So
it
I think
it
this is where AI becomes useful.
Mhm.
Now, tying it back to this article and some of the others, I think the difference between people who are seeing it as something big that's happening, and I don't like I wouldn't. But the point where I differ is I don't think of it as a doom and gloom, sky is falling, world is ending.
Yeah,
I see it
yeah.
as it's a great opportunity. Now you have something it at your fingertips that knows a lot about a lot of things, right? So, picking up your example, let's say you were talking to a brand who wants to sponsor your show, and you have no idea how to, move forward with that. You could basically treat AI as a mentor or consultant to you,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
basically pose questions. The key difference between the people who are seeing this as an opportunity and people who are seeing this like this is not good is the type of question you're asking.
Correct. I would
If
also
you,
extend that
yeah,
further to say it's your use case, right? It is very different if you are using AI to learn how to present yourself in a sponsorship meeting versus if you are, let's say, sending AI to go do that for you, or you are using AI to write your emails. You are using AI as, like, I don't know, having it on your phone there as you speak and it's telling you what to say. Two very different things.
yep, yep.
And this is where I think I understand kind of why people are afraid of AI, but we can get into that further down because I do want to talk a little bit about that later on.
I think on not just use case, I think there is the other aspect is how do you approach it, right? What I've seen is like where AI slop comes is
Mhm.
I want to write an article on AI doom and gloom. What would AI do in 2026 and 2027? Can you write an article which is 1,500 words? Duh, it's going to be slop,
Mhm.
right? At least in my experience, what I have seen where it does better is you put your thoughts on a piece of paper. What do you think? What do you think is going to do? Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry about structure. Don't worry about anything. Just put your thoughts there, right? And then use that as a starting point and say, hey, I want you to be a critic. AI is a very good critic.
Yeah, correct.
This
AI is
is
incredible.
this is how I am thinking about it. Poke holes in it. And wherever you poke hole, provide me evidence
Mhm.
for that claim,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Have
Start
you
the
heard of
conversation there.
the Yeah, yeah. Have you heard of, like, the what is it called? The Automat framework for prompt engineering?
I have not. I have not.
Okay. It's insane because this is something that was taught to me in my Elements of Data Processing class, first sem of last year. And I can't remember what the exact acronym stood for, but it was quite literally talking about how to get your prompts optimized for AI. So you had to ask it to act as a certain role, give it the context, things like that. I'm forgetting what the exact acronym is, but if you're listening and you're curious, Automat Framework for Prompt Engineering.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's a interruption.
in my experience, the way I have used AI, um, the role and context matter a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
the more context you do, the better the reasoning is gonna be,
Mhm.
right? That's the key. Like the more data you can give AI to process, to chew on, the better they can think about it, the better they can rationalize, and the better they can
Yes.
argue with you.
Yes. Yes.
But my point of view has always been don't go to AI and ask it to make a decision. Either go for a brainstorming session, and every time it proposes something, ask more questions, try to go deeper and deeper. I think you know it very well. Like I've always asked you, like, talk to AI.
Yeah.
Don't rely on typing. because
Talk to AI.
not everybody likes to write. There are some people, like Jordy Visser, in one of Palm's podcast, he basically said some of his prompts are like 5 pages long or 3 pages, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Sure. He likes to write. I don't, but I can talk to it.
You can
I
talk.
have that capability. I put
Yes.
it in voice mode. I basically tell it, do not interrupt me. I will tell you when I'm ready for you to start responding.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it doesn't start answering to
Yeah,
me the
doing the
moment I
little.
take a pause.
Yes. Yeah.
And with that, I don't have to, like, I'm not taking a class. It's like I'm talking to a friend and asking for their
Yes.
opinion, and they understand when I'm done talking and they can respond. And based on
Mm-hmm.
what they respond, I respond, and then they respond, and I respond, and they respond. And then we basically say, okay, let's start forming how we can implement it. And every time I do that, I basically say, give me 3 variations. And I also tell me why it will not work. What are the shortcomings? Where it will fail? Help me poke holes. Right? And still, I'm not telling it, go make a decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
You gave me 3 options. I'm going to take those. I'm going to read all of that, think about it, pick on one, go deeper in it, put my thoughts, then go back and say, okay, based on what you told me, this is what I've come up with.
Yeah.
Poke holes
Yeah.
again. Right?
And this is
I
something
think
that's
this is the
really nuanced, I
difference.
think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say probably the exact same thing. This is
Finish your
something
thought.
that's
Yeah.
really, really nuanced because I think a lot of the people who are in this thought camp of AI is bad, AI is making you dumber, are thinking that you need to use AI to make your decisions when that is not at all the case. You should use AI almost like an encyclopedia is the way that I like to think of it, right? My favorite use case for AI is to do research. Why? Because it makes my life so much easier. When I want to plan out my content, I head over to Grok and I say, hey, what are the top 5 trending topics in the Bitcoin world right now? It tells me what's going on. That I don't have to scour through thousands and thousands of hashtags, right? AI is there to make your life more efficient. AI is there to save you time so you can focus on the things that actually matter and actually require your brain power. It's almost the same thing with assignments. I have this discourse with some of my classmates all the time because they're very much like AI is making us all dumber. And while I agree, I do think a side effect of AI adoption has been lower media literacy and
But
reading
hey,
comprehension. But
sorry to interrupt, but social media did the exact same thing, probably even worse.
exactly. That, and now that we have AI in a real world job, unless you are working in, let's say journalism or something like that, if you are a doctor, an engineer, and you need to write something, you can use AI to write it for you because that's not pertinent to your actual job. That's a skill that we were all taught that AI has come and can take over very, very quickly, right? If I need a write up that's just like explaining something that I've done, some coding assignment that I've done, and I need to explain it, AI can
So
do
I'll
that
I'll I'll
for
I'll
me.
give you this. I'll give you a real life example, right? Where AI would be a great use case.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, my brother is a doctor, and doctors have this idea of medical transcriptionists. So because they have to write up everything that they have done and put it in their records, so there is this entire profession of medical transcriptionists. So what the doctors end up doing is they take voice notes, send those recordings.
Mm-hmm.
The other side will type this up and send it back, and you file it in your records.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really
That
funny because I was at
profession
the
is doomed.
doctor. Yep. I was at the doctor the other day and I had to sign a waiver because my doctor was using an AI, I guess transcriptionist. And then there's also, that whole thing about translating subtitles for movies? You can get paid to translate it into a language, right? AI can do that now. So yeah, there are definitely like these mediocre tasks. I think AI is so, so great for that. But coming back to your point, I think of AI being good or bad. It really just comes down to how you use it. So, how are you using AI in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. I'm using AI for multiple different things, and I use different AIs for different things.
That's
Right.
another
So
good thing. Yep.
let me start where how like, what AI I use for what purpose, and then I kind of lay out what how am I using some of these things. So, like you rightly pointed out, Grok is very good at finding the latest and the greatest happening in the world. Right. What are people talking about right now? All other AIs take little bit longer to index all that information. Grok does it right there because X and
Its data is from X.
XAI are
Yes.
kind of, you know, uh, tied together. So I use Grok to find the latest stuff, right? For example, when I let's say I hear about, oh, some big economic data was coming out today. Okay. What are people saying about this? And get suddenly, very quickly here are, top posts, what people are talking about.
Mhm.
Then I take that and phrase kind of my question, what does it mean? For example, like I want to dive deeper into this. For example, the job reports came yesterday and the numbers were we expecting 55,000 new jobs and the number came at 220,000 new jobs or whatnot, right? Um, Great. What does it mean, right? Where is this data coming from? Are there specific sectors that are adding a lot more jobs versus not? What does it
Mhm.
mean for my portfolio?
Yeah.
Right? How does it impact that? Right? For this type of information, I would go to Perplexity. Perplexity is very good with financial data, especially if you're diving deeper into okay, if this data, like for example, what does this employment numbers mean for Palantir, for an example,
Mhm.
right? A specific company. What did Palantir
Palantir.
say in their last, quarterly earnings? What did they
Mhm.
talk about AI?
Yeah.
How much they're spending on it? What was the distribution of their commercial versus government, revenue, right? What was the growth in last 5 quarters or 4 quarters in this segment? Like, so on those kind of questions, I'll go to Perplexity. If I'm coding something, like for example, I was putting together a website for a friend, right? And I basically used Claude code for that. And in one weekend, I was able to create a full blown website for them that was using React and all the new jazzy technologies, which I have no
Yeah.
idea about how to work. When I coded 15, 20 years back, I coded in C++ and Unix. Nobody uses it anymore, right? Or maybe some people do. So I wouldn't say, but nobody builds websites in that, right?
Yeah.
So if I did not have AI, I would have to spend few weeks studying it, and I would still not be able to build something, but I was able to kick that out in a week.
Mhm.
Right. So the combination of Google's AI Studio and Claude, like AI Studio, kind of started the front end part. Like this is how the UI should look like, and then Claude basically took from there. I didn't even have to worry about checking the code into GitHub private repository. It will every time check out, create a new
Ever do
branch,
that for you. Yes. Yeah.
right? So you check out the new branch when you say but you have to be explicit. I can't say go build a website. I tried that. It produces garbage.
Yeah.
Then I basically said, we need to build this website. This is the first phase. These are the features that I want. Then in second, I wanted to build this feature now. I wanted to build this feature now. This feature should be able to do this, right? Once you start becoming very descriptive about what you want, like you have to give it the direction. Like, so think of it like if you're driving a car and you don't know where you're going, you're not going to reach where you're going
Yeah.
because you don't know where you're going.
Yeah. It's not even that. When you're let's say you were building a website and you were pawning it off to an actual engineer, you have to tell them explicitly what you want. Otherwise, they're going
Bingo.
to produce what they think is right. Right? So you have to be about as detailed as you would be with another person.
Yep. So I think, and that's the reason I disagree with this idea of that AI will make us dumber. If you're
Yeah.
basically saying, AI, do this for me, and you're not putting any thought, what is this?
You're not using AI correctly.
You're not using AI, and then you will get a slop back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the same thing. I see a lot of my friends just do their uni assignments with AI. That's not benefiting you and that's not benefiting the AI, right? You are not doing any
It's
of the
benefiting the
thinking
AI
for
companies. You're
yourself.
using the
Yeah.
tokens and ending up paying
Well,
them.
fair, but you're paying them for what? Garbage. They're not getting
Yeah.
any better.
Garbage
So
in, garbage
it's
out. So the simple
yes.
fundamental, I think we learn in
Yeah.
computer science 101.
Yeah.
If you put in garbage,
You're
at the
gonna
other
get
end, it will be garbage. Coming back to it. So I use Claude Code for all my coding stuff. Like I'm learning to figure out how do I do on-chain analysis, for an example. So I have a Bitcoin node. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me just take write a parser for blockchain using AI and see how it goes. Start building a database. Um, it will take some time because first I keep running out of tokens, and every time it kicks me out for longer. Right,
Yeah.
first time it'll kick you out 2 hours, and 5 hours, and come back tomorrow. So
Yeah.
right. But anyway, for most other stuff, I have started using Gemini, not so much OpenAI. Like I've seen
Interesting.
OpenAI kind of becoming sloppier. I've heard good things about 5.2 and 5.3. But like 5.1 was terrible, so I kind of shift. So maybe I have to give OpenAI a try again. But Gemini works beautifully, especially with Gemini 3. Um, the Nano Banana Pro is mind blowing if you're
Yeah.
creating any kind of graphics. I've again the graphics are only as good as you tell it to be. So sometimes what I do is I kind of brainstorm there, or scribble something on Canva and then take that as a starting point and give it to Google Banana Pro or Nano Banana, sorry, and kind of iterate on that. Mind everybody, I'm not a designer by any means. Even to draw a straight line, I need a ruler. So I'm that kind of designer. But that's it. So that's how are the different things begin. So what am I doing with this? Right now, I'm trying to build a couple of projects. Right, started talking about this Bitcoin on-chain analysis. I also run some covered call strategies on some of my portfolio to generate some income. Um, Tracking those is challenging and hard, and I hate typing. So I tried using different spreadsheets, but every time I would forget entering one of the trades there, and the whole P&L shifts and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look right, and then my tracking gets off. So what I'm trying to figure out is, can I build something just for me, not for everybody else, where when I do a trade, I take a screenshot of the trade, throw it there, and it does it for me. Right? I want to minimize work for me. I don't want to minimize thinking for me.
Yeah.
At least in my mind, that's the biggest difference. I want to think. I want to decide what I'm going to work on, and then I can let AI do the hows of that, because AI would be
Mm-hmm.
much faster than.
Yeah.
So you probably saw on X and several other places, there was a big rage about Cloud Bot couple of weeks
Yes.
ago and whatnot,
Yes.
and now it's
Yes.
called as OpenClaw.
Yeah.
So I started poking around the website. I watched one of the interviews the founder of OpenClaw did very recently. Um, I want to get my hands on it, but I also have some skepticism, like how much control I
Yeah.
want to give it. So what I'm thinking is I'll probably wipe out my Mac Mini and kind of set it up with a different Gmail, different Apple
Mhm.
ID, like nothing of my personal stuff,
I try that out.
but let it iterate on that and see what it does. So, the good thing about that is you can integrate with any messaging app. You can integrate with iMessage, WhatsApp, Telegram. So now you don't even have to open up an app on your phone. You can basically send a text message or a WhatsApp message or a Telegram message to this bot, and this bot is always on listening to you. And then
Yes,
you can
yeah.
tweak it, in any which way. So the one funny thing I'll say there is when I was watching this video from the founder of OpenClaw, he was like, you can even tweak it to basically, give you teasers or sort of jolts in between that, hey, why are you texting me at 3 a.m.? You should be asleep. Like, go back to sleep.
Yeah.
So like that kind of stuff. So you are not overworked. You can monitor your sleep.
Yeah.
So again, bunch of different things. I know
Yeah.
so the way I'm going with this is the opportunities with AI are numerous. The number of things you can do with AI, numerous. And how fast you can do is phenomenal. It's only going to get better. AI is as worse as it gets today.
That is true.
Tomorrow is going to be
Yeah, that
better
is
than,
absolutely true.
right? So in that world, now I think I'll tie some of the other things that I've been thinking about, slightly shifting away from AI, because I think that's important, especially for you younger folks. As the society is getting divided between people who are seeing AI as an opportunity
Mhm.
and people who are dismissing AI, right? There will be a divide. The divide between these two groups will keep widening,
Yes. Yep.
right? And in that world, if you are a little bit successful, financial security and personal security becomes very, very important, right? And we know this whole podcast that Nikki runs, and some of the times that we have talked about this is financial security comes from saving your time and energy in Bitcoin.
Yes, absolutely.
But physical security comes from location independence, where you, if push comes to shove, you can move to a place with your family which respects your personal safety and your property rights. Right? That's going to be very, very critical in the upcoming 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
that we will see a rise in violence. The fourth turning points. We are towards the last stages of fourth turning. So this is where the chaos
Starts to
rises,
yeah.
rise. Violence probably would increase, and we are seeing increase in violence,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. With
Political
everything that's
violence or
come out
not.
in the last week, right, about the American government and the elite.
Sure, like I'm not even talking about elite here. Right? If you bring
Yeah.
in elites, you're talking about then the aspect of control comes from that perspective. You need to be safe
Yeah.
too. But imagine a world where AI, if you believe AI is gonna be is a tool that's gonna enhance productivity for a bunch of businesses, bunch of individuals. Guess what happens to people who are dismissing AI and not learning AI today? They'll be left behind, and then they won't be able to catch up ever.
Yeah.
Right? Because if this is accelerating at exponential pace and you are not learning it, imagine where you are and where AI would be with every day that's passing by. So in that world, this group is the one which will get displaced and will be hurt. Right? So first thing, don't think of AI as a threat, but do not dismiss it.
But also don't think of it as your friend. That's very, very important distinction
I think
here.
the best way to think about this is you have an army of interns, analysts, researchers, marketers who are ready to take orders from you.
Yep.
And execute it.
Yeah. AI is a tool. I think that's probably the best way to...
AI is a tool. And just like money, AI would be a fabulous servant, but an awful master.
Yes.
That's exactly what money does too. If you let money be your master, money will make you do things that you cannot even think about.
Yep. But if you make money work for you, then...
Exactly. If you make money your servant, it's a fabulous servant. It works. It keeps making you more money, even when you're sleeping or chilling with your family and friends and not thinking about anything else. Right? So again, don't dismiss AI. And whatever you build with AI, protect all extra time and energy after you take care of your living expenses, put it in Bitcoin, and make sure you are thinking about where would you take your family and your loved ones if the violence was to rise where you live. Violence was to rise, controls were to rise, property rights are going away, right? The racism increase. Bunch of us who are immigrants in America, we are seeing what's happening with racism, right? I'm proud to say I come from India, but I see what's happening, and the hatred towards people or immigrants from India is on the rise. And guess what? We didn't come here illegally. We worked our behind off, studied hard, learned the skills, got the jobs that there are a lot of other people who were not qualified to do, right? And then worked even harder to reach the place where we are today, right? So blanket racism against any race is not good, but that's on the rise. That's a reality of the world. I don't want to close my eyes and say, oh, this is not happening. World doesn't work that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in that world, I would say it's very important. We have talked about it previously as well, but physical security and financial securities are important. And if you ask me at this point in time, there are not many places in the world that respect property rights, right? The top two in my head are Dubai and Singapore.
Interesting. Okay, how come?
Dubai has seen what is breaking in the Western world, what did not work for them. And given their structure, because they are not the true democracies, they don't have to go through an entire legislative process to make policies, take decisions, and whatnot. The decisions can be taken like this, right? So if you see what is happening in Dubai right now, a ton of migration from Europe, Russia, Ukraine, India, China, like all the places which are trying to say, if you have a little bit of money, come here, or this place is not livable because we are under war. Sure, I have nothing against people who want to go fight a war, but if you are not one of those who want to fight a war, why would you want your family to suffer?
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because this reminds me of that stat about how, I don't know the exact stat, but like the most millionaires are leaving the UK, and then you're getting them all coming basically to...
Right. So largest number of millionaires from world are
Mhm.
migrating towards UAE.
Yeah.
Sure, a bunch of them are coming to United States too, because and I'm nothing against United States, but look where people are moving away from:
Mhm.
UK, China, India, South Korea, Russia, Brazil, France, Spain, Germany, Israel. And where are they going? UAE, United States, Italy, Portugal, Greece. They have been emphasizing a lot on bringing in people with money, because that they
Yes.
can
Yes.
give them some you know tax incentives to attract them. That's an extra money for them that they would not otherwise get. And it's an incentive for people who have a little bit of money and live in jurisdictions where they're paying like 40-50% taxes. Go to these places but look at Saudi, look at Singapore. So Saudi is coming up as well, but I think UAE, especially Dubai, is much further along, much further along.
Yeah. It's interesting to see just the margin by which the margin by which, the UK is ahead of all of the other countries in that bracket. Obviously China and India are up there as well, but you had, what was that? Like some 14 something K.
It's like 16,500.
Oh,
But if you think about it, like,
16,500.
what is happening, right? UK went completely bonkers when it came
It's
to
true.
taxes. We're going to
Yeah.
tax our citizens. If you have money, give it to us. No, it doesn't work like that. What is happening in California, right? I don't know if you saw this, but Mark Zuckerberg came out yesterday and said he's moving to Miami because of the new billionaire tax proposal. So I would say that this tax the rich thing never works.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can say
because the
whatever,
people that
politician
are
can
kind
say
of
whatever.
the people that are the subject of these taxes, right? They have the freedom and the capital to move to some place that isn't.
I think the most important thing that people forget is a large majority of the tax revenue that the governments collect comes from these people.
Yeah.
They increase the tax and then they leave, and these governments complain, oh, our we have tax deficits, our revenue deficits. Of course you will.
Yeah, you got too greedy. Like,
Like, why do you think Jeff Bezos left Washington State? Because they introduced
because
freaking 7% capital gains tax,
yeah.
right? Then they introduced this, headcount tax in Seattle, and Amazon started moving, the buildings to the east
To
side,
yeah.
right? And then they were saying, oh, because we were in tax deficit, we should take this tax from Seattle and it applied to the entire Washington state. Like, are you even thinking what will happen?
Yeah, if it
People
didn't
will
work
move
in
to the next
Seattle,
state.
it's not gonna work in the state, right? Especially
Exactly.
because I think the US is also very divided on these, so there's always gonna be states that are not going to be as that are not going to have as high taxes as the others. So that's a whole another conversation for another time. But I think coming back to the point here, do you think location independence is going to be one of the most important things for like my generation to strive for? Today's episode is brought to you by GS Realty, your one-stop shop for all things Dubai real estate and golden visa processing. Now, in this episode, we've spoken a lot about how important it is to physically secure your location and your plan B. Now, they're hosting a property show on February 28th and March 1st in Grand Hyatt, Seattle. So make sure you check out the link in description to secure your spots and your exclusive investment opportunities for you and your family's safe future.
Yes. And
So
I think
before trying to settle down and get a house, would you say you want to secure some sort of plan B in terms of location?
don't even bother about getting a house. Don't
Okay,
bother.
so don't bother. Okay,
Like,
interesting.
until this chaos kind of normalizes and we reach a place where we can see where the world is going,
Hmm.
don't even bother.
Okay.
And the simple reason for that is, as the world is figuring out what happens to with AI, which countries benefits, which geographies benefit, which economies benefit, which will suffer. Um, and the monetary reset happens. Like we've talked about that a bunch.
Yeah.
I'm sure US will benefit in the long run,
Mm-hmm.
but it will benefit in a way, a segment will benefit tremendously, another segment will be hurt badly.
Yeah.
And that will create violence. And that would require a political reset. Right. So I think the best person who describes that is Balaji from Network School.
Yes. Yes, I
I
was
think the
just
way
thinking.
he positions it, and I'll try to paraphrase it. I made my paraphrasing might be wrong, so I would highly encourage people to go watch him speak. But I think the way he says is, in this new world that we are moving towards, instead of countries, people will be forming communities around internet based on their belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you might see a certain region, and which I think Dubai is becoming one of them, like Dubai for AI and crypto. I would say Bitcoin, not crypto,
But
but
it
is
is crypto. Like what is happening in Dubai
yes.
is crypto. It's
So
not very.
Dubai is basically saying AI is on the rise. In the world of AI, the new monetary network would be crypto. Which crypto, time will tell, but it will be
Mm-hmm.
crypto or
Yep.
blockchain rather. And they're basically saying we gonna build an entire
Yeah.
region around that. Like we build the
That
entire
and
community around that, and property
they're
rights.
putting so much money into AI data centers and mining. They are putting so much money into that.
Exactly.
Not even to mention, they had Bitcoin Mina and everything. That is becoming a very crypto safe region of the world.
Yep. Because that comes down to property rights, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that is one aspect. Singapore is on the very similar tracks. Like high standard of living, high incomes, low taxes. Sure, cost of living is high.
Mm-hmm.
Dubai, no taxes, high cost of living, high incomes, right? But then you go to places like UK, no property rights, low
High
income,
cost of
high
living, low
taxes,
income. Yep.
high crime. Why do I want to deal with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? So coming back, like tying it all together for young people, the most important thing to think about is, what are you going to build? Be the builders. Gone are the days when you could be an employee.
Yeah.
Because if you want to take orders, guess who does better job at taking orders?
For no
AI,
cost. Yep.
of a very low cost.
It's relatively speaking, it's no cost, I'd say. The cost of what?
Sure,
A ChatGPT subscription versus paying someone is.
true, but don't forget, if you're trying to build a business, you won't be able to just do with a ChatGPT Pro subscription.
That's
You
fair.
probably need
That's fair.
APIs and
Yeah.
tokens and whatnot. Like that becomes a
Yeah.
different beast.
Mm-hmm.
But still, AI does a far better job of taking orders than a human. What AI doesn't do better than humans? Decision making. And that's what your generation needs to focus on. Anybody
Yeah.
who wants to succeed in AI's world needs to focus on, be the builder, not the employee, not the order taker.
Build with
Once you
AI.
become the
Yep.
builder, then you basically start saying, okay, now what do I do with like all the excess time and energy that I'm getting in this fiat? You don't have to
Put
learn
into
to
Bitcoin.
invest.
Yep.
Just
Yeah.
store in Bitcoin,
Store it in Bitcoin.
stay focused. Stay
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah. So obviously, I don't want to, ask about potential business ideas or anything because I do think that's very nuanced and that has to come down to who you are as a person and what you are passionate about. But what are some of the things that you can build with AI? Because I think when we start to see this build with AI thing, a lot of people jump straight to software. They jump to SaaS. And it's like, that's not the only thing that you can use AI for, right? And this might go back to what we were talking a little bit about earlier, but let's just get a clear
Yeah.
stance on this.
Um, let's talk about the most non-AI thing you can think of, right? Let's say somebody wants to start a restaurant. They are very
Okay.
good at making food,
Yeah,
and you don't want a Optimus making food,
that's true.
right? But that's all you know. That's all you are good at. You have no idea about anything else, right? So how do you figure out what is the right location for me to open this restaurant, right? What should my pricing be? How should I promote my restaurant? Is it
Mhm.
good to bring in an influencer, or like think more about inorganic growth versus organic growth, right? Okay, we're gonna do a little bit of both. Like, do you want to spend time writing newsletters and creating those campaigns, or you want to basically say, I have an idea, I want my brand to look like this? I wouldn't give deciding your brand to AI,
Yeah. But you can
but
develop it with AI.
yes. So the thing that you are really good at, stick to your guns there.
Mhm.
Everything else that you're not good at, now instead of like earlier, before AI, what would you have done? Oh, I need to open up a restaurant. So you'll probably go talk to a commercial real estate broker, scout through some places through them and say, okay, what are the places available? Now you can basically say, okay, AI, I want to open this type of restaurant in this zip code or this area. Can you tell me what are the good pros, what are the cons, what should I be looking for? What happens if my restaurant is in the middle of the strip mall versus on the corner? Versus ground floor versus top floor, like how much difference it makes. Like a lot of these things that if you are focusing on how to make good food, you don't even think about. These are things probably a
Correct.
good marketer or real estate
Yeah.
broker would think about,
Yeah.
right?
And
But
and
then,
yeah.
then you would go and hire a lawyer, a marketing agency, a design agency, a interior decorator, somebody who will come and do all these things for you. You'll spend a boatload of money, right? Before you even open the door and serve the first customer.
Mhm.
Now with AI, you can cut all those costs by more than 80%. You might still need it. Probably you still need a lawyer, but you
Yeah.
don't have to sit because lawyers charge by minutes. Like you don't have to sit with them. You basically say, okay, I'm going to brainstorm with AI, then basically go with that to the lawyer and say, this is what I'm thinking. I want you to review it and tell me what am I missing. Right? So you're not going with a blank slate. You're going with a starting point. Right? You come up with 5 designs, then you go to a designer and say, these are the 5 designs. This is my preferences. How can you make these better?
Mhm.
Right? A starting point, I'm going to pay you for 2 hours or 5 hours or 10 hours instead of paying you for 80 hours.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And
This is
your
a
entire focus could be on how do I make the best possible food available at that.
yeah. Yeah. And I'm really glad we're talking about this because I think when we start to see things about building with AI, a lot of people's minds just jump to you need to become the next Sam Altman, right? But that's precisely what you don't want to do. It's about how can you integrate AI into your passion, your daily life to advance what you want to do, right? It could be that restaurant. Maybe if you are a Sam Altman kind of guy, you can go start another open AI version or something.
I
But it
won't. I won't. And I'll tell you why.
okay.
Um, First of all, building with AI doesn't mean build AI.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Building
Yeah.
building another LLM, guess who you're competing with? You're competing with Google, Amazon, Microsoft,
Mhm.
Nvidia,
So on
right?
this note then, what are your thoughts on all these ChatGPT wrappers? There are so many. There's there's, what is that one called? Sora AI and
Sora is also
Rocket.
through OpenAI. Sora is,
Then I'm not
from what I
thinking of the right
remember,
one.
uh, so here's the thing. Build with AI specifically means, can you find that one, either build a product that solves one specific problem, right? For example, if you want to build a company that helps people, helps podcasters create their thumbnails, so you take AI
Please.
and tweak it such that it creates the best thumbnails. But that's the only thing it does, right? Or you could do something like, I'm going to take this and do a voiceover. Like you can
Yeah.
you give me your voice, like 11 Labs does something that like that.
Yeah.
Or you can build just PowerPoint slide decks. So like those are the kind of tools and products you can build. Or you can say, I'm going to build an AI that does portfolio management. It can it can construct 5 different portfolios for you based on your goals, the amount you're want to invest in, what kind of exposures you want, whatever constraints you want to put, how far, what is your time horizon and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
You can think
Yeah.
of a million reasons, million ways. So that's how you create a product using AI. That's one dimension you can go in. The other dimension is you can pick up any business and see how I can become better at this business and deploy AI in the places and become more efficient.
Exactly.
That's the key difference.
I think we're heading into a world where obviously being self-sovereign, even in your career and what it is that you're building, is equally as important as being self-sovereign with your money, right? So that's why we have this thing on this channel where we emphasize building with AI and protecting with Bitcoin, because that is what it means to be truly sovereign. So do you see a world where instead of being employees, most people are entrepreneurs for my generation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
go back 100 years, 200 years. What does
Mm-hmm.
society look like? Everybody was self-employed. You were either a farmer or a baker or a plumber or electrician, or you had a meat shop, or you were selling vegetables, fruits, like something or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if you were a farmer, you like one was growing the grains, the other one was
Yeah.
growing vegetables, somebody was growing fruits. And I'm not going all the way back to barter system, but that's how the society was. This is with the rise of this, big behemoths enterprises where like,
Yeah.
oh, I have this large factory and I need to employ, thousands and thousands of workers. And then now we're going into this whole doomerism of, why the education system is structured the way it is structured. Why was the
Mm-hmm.
dream structured in the way it was structured? 13 years of school, 4 years of college, come to a job, work for 40 years, take a retirement. No? Why?
Yeah, if you think about it, humans have never really been like that. And this is just a result of, going into late stage capitalism. Everything is going to circle back around. But yeah, horseshoe theory. So this is interesting, right? Because one of my friends, she is looking to set up like a designer label, right? So she wants to make clothes and sell them. And she's really good at the making clothes part. She's really good at the designing. And she's like, I have absolutely no idea how to set up this business. I don't know how to make a website. So she's like, hey, Nikki, you study computer science. Can you help me make this website? I said, okay, but why don't you go to AI? Why don't you try going to AI? And she goes, yeah, but that's not really something that I want to do. Like, I don't know if AI is going to do it right. I would trust you more than I would trust AI. And to that, I said, interesting, because if you were to ask me to do it, I would go use AI to do it. I wouldn't sit there and code a website for
Yeah.
20,
Yeah.
30 hours when I can get it done in about 10. So,
Or probably two.
yeah, fair.
I think the key thing here to note is not everybody will become proficient with AI.
And
Builders will
this is
still be
what
builders.
scares me.
I don't.
This see
You don't have to be scared with this. That's
See,
okay.
okay, I guess maybe worried is a bit of a better word because obviously there are people in the world that are builders and there are people in the world that are not builders. So I think AI is great for people that are builders, and the ones that are have probably caught on to this. But for the people who aren't builders, the safety net of being able to work for someone who was a builder, that is going to go away with AI.
Kind of, but here is a twist to it.
Okay.
The twist is like, we'll take example of your friend, right? She doesn't want to deal with website. She doesn't know how
Mhm.
to do it. Or she
Yeah.
doesn't want to learn that because she wants to spend all her time in doing what she enjoys, which is designing
Mhm.
clothes, right? This is where people like you or somebody else in this role can come and say, okay, you know what? I will be the AI builder for the builders who don't want to deal with AI.
Interesting. Okay.
Right
So,
now, she doesn't have to go and to talk to like 5 different people. She can come to you
talk
and
to
say,
one
Nikki,
person.
I want somebody to establish entire AI and do all this for me.
Yeah.
It's not
I guess,
so. This
yeah,
this whole. So here's the thing: migration doesn't happen overnight. Any migration,
that's true.
right? And in this case, we have 4 generations to move along. The easiest generation that will be AI native is the one which is 5 or under,
Yeah, Gen
right?
Beta, right? The ones that are
Right,
coming in now.
which is
They're
like, they, for them it's like for your generation, like having a smartphone is like a must. Who doesn't have a smartphone,
exactly. Yep.
right? For this generation, for the generation that will come in like 20 years in workforce, for them, like, who doesn't use AI? Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like saying I
Yeah.
don't use English,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
right?
really interesting world that they're headed into. And I
Yeah.
do think
So
that like my generation here has the advantage of we can pioneer a lot of this if you catch on early enough.
I think that, so the most important thing that your generation has that my generation or older generation don't. The first thing is you guys have a lot of time and your generation has very little risk,
Yeah.
right? So like your generation, when you're just starting out, you have nothing to lose. You have trying something out, you have nothing to lose. Maybe you lose a little bit of time, but guess what? You have a lot of time. And what
Yeah.
AI allows you to do is now you don't need to wait 6 months to try something. If you have an idea, you can try it over a weekend
Yep.
or a week,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
This is
So
something
instead of
that
trying two
like
ideas in a year, you can try like 15 a year
yeah. This is something
and
that I
with very
think
little cost.
yeah, that I didn't start realizing until after starting the podcast as well, just how powerful AI is, right? If we didn't have AI, being able to research, film, plan, edit 3 episodes in a week, almost impossible. That too, with a full time degree going at the same time, almost impossible, right? But now this has cut down my time to like researching and prepping the episodes in total for the week, maybe 10 hours, including filming, maybe 10 hours, right? So AI saves you so much time. And this is something that I want to reiterate again. Um, it's about being time efficient. It's about using it to do the mundane things that you don't have the capacity or the time to do that you could be spending towards something else. So that's something that, I tried to tell my friend as well. But again, if you're listening to this and you're young and you're looking for a business idea, be the AI connector that connects people who don't want to deal with AI to AI.
And I think that's where some of the AI jobs will come in future. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see a world where we won't have AI jobs. We'll have less
Yeah.
jobs than we have today. But there will be a
Mm-hmm.
migration period where the number of available jobs, because jobs won't look anything like what they look today.
Yeah. They have to emerge, right? We have to realize what
Right.
we need
And
in
we
an
don't know
AI
what those
world.
jobs would be.
Exactly.
right? But I believe majority of the jobs would be around this. You will be the AI enabler for the people who are not ready,
Mm-hmm.
right? If there is a 65-year-old businessman or businesswoman for that matter, if they are running a business, they want to become more efficient, they want to increase their profit margins, but they either don't have time or have no willingness to learn AI, it's okay. They can bring in an AI consultant.
Yeah.
And then AI consulting could become a thing during this migration period.
Yeah. That's also interesting because maybe you don't want to start something of your own. You want to just learn something, learn AI, and then become an AI consultant, and you don't have to start something of your own, right? So that's really interesting to
But
think
but
about
but
just the
but
amount of
it
things that you could
depends. And
do.
if you're becoming an AI consultant and you're looking, somebody will hire you so you can work on different projects. Then you have to wait for some builder to come to a
So you
place
have
where
to
they
wait
can
for some
hire you.
builder. Yeah, and you
And
have
now
to wait for that builder to not be AI native themselves, which is
now
not something that we're having right now.
exactly
Yeah. I think
exactly.
everyone who's in this mindset of I need to create something has recognized and has seen the power of AI, um, and are working towards it.
So like to close it all out, I would say first of all, don't fall for doom and gloom. Don't be dismissive of AI. AI is real. AI is here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Growth rate is exponential, which basically means nobody knows what it would look like next year. Right? Anybody who's saying anything, their guess is as good as yours.
Yep.
But don't dismiss it. Learn it. Don't let your curiosity die. Be curious. Build with AI. Protect with Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, to that note, I think just start something, right? There's so much apprehension. Like you come up with an idea and there's so much apprehension. I don't have time to do this. I don't have the skills to do this. Just start it because what you don't know, AI knows, right? I called you one week. I was like, hey, Dad, what about a Bitcoin podcast? The next week, I was recording the episode and I released it. So it's because there's AI takes out so much of that apprehension. It does so many things for you. So I just wanted to add, like, start something. If you're Gen Z and you're listening to this, that thing that you always wanted to do, just get on it now because it is easier now than it ever has been before. But also, this is the best time to start it. It is going to be better to start it today than it will be tomorrow. So, yeah. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode then. I know it's a little bit shorter than the previous ones, but I wanted to keep this one kind of very compact and very direct with what the topic was because we've spoken so much about building with AI and protecting with Bitcoin on this channel, but we hadn't really touched on the AI part before today. So I hope this episode makes things clearer. I hope it has you thinking a bit more about the ideas that you have, about the things that you like, the problems that you're seeing, and maybe what you can do to solve it. Yeah, I think that is it from me. Dad, do you have any closing thoughts?
No, I think this is great. Just be curious, keep studying, keep trying. Don't be complacent. Don't let your
Yeah,
curiosity die.
yeah. Be your own person. Be a critical thinker, guys. Critical thinking. Such a good skill.
Yep. That's a skill that is
All
dying very
right.
fast.
It is. It is. But on the bright side, AI and Bitcoin teach you to be a critical thinker and they teach you to be sovereign. So, most important thing. But with that being said, that is it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As usual, like, subscribe, let me know what you thought in the comments, and let me know, what you guys want us to discuss for next week's Satoshi Sundays. I was thinking we might go a little bit into BTC but if that's not something that you guys would be interested in, then let us know what you would. With that being said, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay orange pilled. I'm your host, Nikki, and this is my dad. And we will both see you next Sunday for Satoshi Sundays number 6.